Hi, you're here with Jenna, Bailey, Onmi, and Joey, and we're talking about George Orwell's book, 1984.
So hopefully we'll get through a few talking points today, but overall we'll be discussing the theme of a dystopian society within the novel, and Onmi will start us off with a short summary.
So the summary of this novel is the world after World War II has been broken up into three nations: Oceania, Eurasia, and East Asia. The book itself takes place in Oceania, where Winston Smith, the main character, is dealing with criminal thoughts against the government, which is Big Brother, and his deal with I'm trying to say it. His dealing with how the government is set up and its innate corruptness and throughout the whole thing. Each of the nations, part of the dystopian society is that each of the nations are at war with each other, and some of the biggest things going around is war is peace, freedom is slavery, and such like that. So, and with this,
I think, Joey, come here. I think we should try and start it off by...
Should I try to do the summary so I'm not nervous about the entire thing?
I just gave the summary!
Okay.
Alright, okay, hold on. I think we should start by defining a dystopian society and what that means, because we see it in a lot of stories and movies and novels, but it seems to be really popular, so what is it?
A dystopian society is basically when instead of a perfect, happy-go-lucky, like everything is perfectly normal, like what you imagine heaven to be, it is the opposite, where it puts up a facade of what a utopia is, but it's really messed up.
Utopian describes a society that is conceived to be perfect. Dystopian is the exact opposite. It describes an imaginary society that is as dehumanizing and unpleasant as possible. Other famous dystopian authors include Aldous Huxley, Kurt Vonnegut, and Ray Bradbury.
Oh, Fahrenheit 451.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later.
So I think we can do. The idea is 1984 is definitely using this dystopian society, and they are using the idea of Big Brother to kind of bring that out the most. So they have Big Brother, and they have propaganda everywhere, and they have constant rallies and things like that, where they're just kind of shoving Big Brother in everybody's face, and kind of the entire book has to do with the entire book basically has to do with how Big Brother is brainwashing everybody and how they're able to brainwash everybody. So yeah, that's the main idea when it comes to the dystopian society, is that they're able to just brainwash everybody.
Yeah, okay. We know it's a dystopian society because of factors like that, and others relating to that, like...
So in this particular dystopian society with Big Brother, there is constant monitoring. I can't say words. Constant monitoring of everyone through the telescreen, as well as hidden microscopes. Microphones, microscopes, same difference. I don't care. And so that's like part of the thing is constant monitoring, no matter what. And another thing is, what else, Joey?
What are the talking points?
So they really want to strike fear into all of these citizens to make sure that they're orderly and they go by the rules of the government.
One of the ways that they do, maybe not strike fear, but do control the thoughts of the people, is through the altering of documents and history in general, through Winston's particular job at the in the memory department, where he goes through different documents and forges stories out of old documents to make sure that Big Brother is never wrong, that Big Brother was never wrong, that Big Brother is just right.
Mm-hmm. with the altering of the past and documents, a major part of that is making sure Big Brother is always right, is focusing all of this and changing small details, such as if it was Eurasia they were at war at and suddenly they changed it, they're at war with East Asia. They spent the entire night, everyone in Winston's department, changing the small little facts to make sure that whatever they're saying now aligns with the past, so that as long as they control the minds of the people, they control what was actually in the past.
Okay, Joey, do you want to touch on how they kept everybody aligned with that information by talking about how they had some they had people who came to houses and like how they got rid of people who had different mindsets?
Well, can I say something really quick?
Yeah.
I think that it's important to mention that the government is in so much control and in complete dominance over the people that they want to make sure the people don't even know that they're being controlled.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why Winston is unique, because
he realizes that there is a certain control that is held amongst the people, specifically through a concept that is called thought crime. Punishing certain actions, certain mindsets, certain phrases that would be contrary to what Big Brother wants to hear. The punishment for these thought crimes would be vaporization, as the locals call it in the book, where the person simply ceases to exist. And if anyone mentions that this person ever exists in any document or any phrase or any saying or any conversation, they are also considered a thought criminal. All documents are also changed in the memory department where Winston works, in order to change it so that they never existed, even going so far as to pretend that someone fake existed in their place.
One of the things is when they take the people away to be vaporized, as they call it, they bring them to what they call the Ministry of Love, where they are tortured and to the point of becoming so susceptible to any idea they learn to accept it. And that's probably a big part of the dystopian societies, that they instill so much fear through just the thought of being a thought criminal. They immediately think, oh, the thought police are going to get me. Even if they just think something is against them, if they think something against Big Brother, it's as if the thought police know almost immediately, and that anyone will like rat them out. And so with this idea of the dystopian society, throughout, seeing Winston's point of view is seeing how he's been trained kind of to have the Big Brother mentality, but he's lived before the Big Brother mentality as well. So he has these two conflicting ideas of everything Big Brother says has to be true as well, but also with there's laws in the universe you can't change, such as gravity, such as 2 + 2 = 4. And with that comes the controlling of Big Brother through fear.
So Ami just brought up a really good subject. So one of the points in the book, just the way they were able to put a visual on how much they are actually controlling society. There's a discussion where they talk about what is 2 + 2. And so they changed it, or they were talking about changing it. They were like, what would you say if Big Brother told you 2 + 2 is 5? And it was kind of just symbolizing how the big brother has so much control that they could tell you 2 + 2 is 5 and you'll just believe it. You won't even question that 2 + 2 is actually 4, or even like the laws of math or anything like that. You would just just believe as soon as Big Brother said 2 + 2 is 5, that's your mindset and nothing else is wrong, nothing else can be questioned.
And another example of that a character named O'Brien, a double agent of the party, which is
Big Brother.
the society that works for Big Brother, he brings up the idea that if through this fear, through this installation of Big Brother is always right, you could even say that a human could float and break all laws of physics simply through a common mindset.
Oh, yeah.
Basically, the end game for the party is to have a hive mind, to have so much power that everyone thinks the same way and there is no conflict toward the party almost entirely.
Bailey mentioned, or you both mentioned, the 2 + 2 = 5 thing. Even the most basic truth and the most absolute truth, like math and numbers, even that could potentially have no power if Big Brother said that it's not true. And that's pretty scary, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
So, how do you think the whole concept of the language of newspeak ties into this?
And with newspeak, which is where they're cutting things from the normal language, which is called old speak. They're cutting words down, they are taking words out. It's basically making sure everyone has the hive mind, as Joey mentioned. It's saying, hey, here's how I want you to describe something. You think it's good? It's just good. If you think something is better, it is double good. If you think something is the best, it is double plus good. It's basically focusing words around simple mentality so that you can't expand your mind to actually think outside of Big Brother. Big Brother is the overall controlling mind. And
I think now we have to touch on what actually occurs in the book, which is the process of someone actually going out of, like, having their own mindset. So we see the main character start writing a journal, and that's kind of like our first indication that we know he's gonna be rebellious. We know he's gonna obviously get into some trouble in this rebellion, and then after this he is married to someone, but he falls in love or a form of affection towards another woman that he just sees at his workplace, and they end up both rebelling together and going away, and kind of, they think that they're not seen by Big Brother, but obviously Big Brother is literally everywhere, so they do end up getting caught eventually. And where we see Big Brother the most is once they are caught, they are put in separate living spaces, and they're tortured and all this other stuff, and they basically are both tortured to the point that they go against each other, basically. And that's when Big Brother they quote unquote wins. Doesn't necessarily win in any case, but they're showing most of their strength because of this. And then at the end of the book, which kind of concludes Big Brother in general, even after the characters are tortured and all these terrible things happen to them, like they're starved, electrocuted, tempted with all these things, even after all of that, the main character leaves us saying that he loves Big Brother and Big Brother is good, basically. So you kind of get that overwhelming feeling of control and brainwashing, and through that.
Another strange thing that I've noticed throughout the book is that Winston constantly describes everyone as ugly. That everyone looks the same, all the men look the same. He always describes them as beetle-like, and they always skitter every which way that they go. And he even calls Julia ugly several times throughout that entire section of the book. But the one person that he does seem to describe as handsome in any way, shape, or form at the very beginning of the book is the photo of quote-unquote Big Brother, which I think probably adds to the dystopian society because the people cannot have any sort of idol or role model for anything really outside of Big Brother. They cannot even have a role model for how they should look outside of Big Brother because Big Brother is the pinnacle of society in that particular society.
Going off of what Joey said with Big Brother being the only one Winston for a long period of time describes as attractive until he really gets to deviate from the thought of Big Brother, like lets himself commit this thought crime is when he later goes and thinks about how Big Brother is always being pictured in everyone as a singular look, and yet, as he does later go on and describe someone else in the lowest class, as he describes her as beautiful, he then also asks, is Big Brother real? And with that comes the idea, is Big Brother actually real, or is Big Brother just just a fake entity to put in mind and to placate everyone that he has a face, so he must be real. And one of the responses that O'Brien gives is that as long as Big Brother's in the minds of people, he is real, but there's no, he never gives a concrete, definite yes or no, which gives to the thought that Big Brother is just an idea more than anything.
All right. We're going to wrap it up real quick, but we want to touch also on other books that this book is like. So 1984 does revolve around a dystopia, and there are a few books that we can relate this to, such as The Giver and Fahrenheit 451.
And it could also be related to other movies as well, such as
Hunger Games and Divergent, which are also book series, deeply rooted with the dystopian mentality. I'm trying to think of other movies, possibly.
So The Giver is a really good example, I think, of, although that's different because in that novel it's supposed to be a utopian society.
Yeah,
but
there's irony in that.
Yeah, they changed the definition of that and allow the reader to understand that that's relative. And things are not always as they seem. So why do you think The Giver is related to this book?
I mean, I specifically think that The Giver is related just because it is such a, they're just, clearly brainwashing people into thinking that there's no outside world. I mean, it's been a really long time since I've actually read the full book, so I don't remember specific details, but from what I remember, it was, there's very little color.
Yeah, didn't see color.
Yeah, so it's kind of like that brainwashing that you kind of are you can definitely relate that brainwashing because it's so extreme. And that's kind of, I think, where you can relate it the most is just the extremity of that.
Yeah.
It's just very...
In The Giver, everyone is the same. Everyone is equal, but it's supposed to be to an advantage. And not in 1984, everyone not having any power at all to be in an individual. And the government isn't really threatened by the people as much in The Giver as they are in 1984. But so in 1984 we have Winston Smith, and in The Giver we have Jonas, who tries to seek out the truth and think for himself, which is unlike what any of the other citizens are doing. So.
Another thing is that a dystopian novel written a few years after 1984 was written is actually Fahrenheit 451, which was mentioned earlier, and it has a lot of the same mentality as 1984, including the fear of the people, that if they gain more knowledge and start thinking for themselves, they're a threat to the government, which is why in Fahrenheit 451 they burned books. Well, in 1984 they change all the documents and they're starting to get rid of the normal way people talk with the new speak.
And in general, going off of what Ami said, I would say that Fahrenheit 451 is much closer resembled to 1984 due to the fact that it focuses so much on the limitation of knowledge and how it is transported to the people. No knowledge can be written down or recorded whatsoever within Fahrenheit 451. And going along with the brainwashing of 1984, there are the television rooms in Fahrenheit 451 that basically determine people's entire lives.
Yeah.
And
can I say something? Yeah. I noticed that in a lot of stories that involve a dystopian or a utopian society, the protagonist is actually just a normal person. They're just a regular citizen like those around them, but them having just a little inkling of individualism is heroic enough that they can get a boost to go forward in this story that's laid out. And
All right. So I think we're going to wrap it up now. Thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoyed.
hope you did. Bye.